Episode 23. Mildred sat a moment, and then, seeing that Montag was still in the doorway, clapped her hands. "Let's talk politics, to please Guy."
"Sounds fine," said Mrs. Bowles. "I voted last election, same as everyone, and I laid it on the line for President Noble. I think he's one of the nicest-looking men who ever became president."
"Oh, but the man they ran against him."
"He wasn't much, was he? Kind of small and homely, and he didn't shave too close or comb his hair very well. What possessed the outs to run him? You just don't go running a little short man like that against a tall man. Besides, he mumbled. Half the time I couldn't hear a word he said, and the words I did hear I didn't understand.
Fat, too, and didn't dress to hide it. No wonder the landslide was for Winston Noble. Even their names helped. Compare Winston Noble to Hubert Hoag for 10 seconds, and you can almost figure the results. "Damn it!" cried Montag. "What do you know about Hoag or Noble?"
"Why, they were right in that parlor wall not 6 months ago. One was always picking his nose. It drove me wild." "Well, Mr. Montag," said Mrs. Phelps, "do you want us to vote for a man like that?"
Mildred beamed. "You just run away from the door, Guy, and don't make us nervous." But Montag was gone and back in a moment with a book in his hands.
"Guy!"
"Damn it all! Damn it! Damn it all!"
"What have you got there? Isn't that a book? I thought that all special training these days was done by Phil."
Mrs. Phelps blinked.
"You reading up on fireman theory?"
"Theory hell," said Montag. "It's poetry." "Montag," a whisper. "Leave me alone." Montag felt himself turning in a great circling roar and buzz and hum. "Montag, hold on. Don't." "Did you hear them? Did you hear those monsters talking about monsters? Oh, God, the way they jabber about people and their own children and themselves, and the way they talk about their husbands, and the way they talk about war. Damn it, I stand here and I can't believe it."
"I didn't say a single word about any war, I'll have you know," said Mrs. Phelps. "As for poetry, I hate it," said Mrs. Bowles.
"Have you ever read any?" "Montag," Faber's voice scraped away at him. "You'll ruin everything. Shut up, you fool." All three women were on their feet. "Sit down!" They sat.
"I'm going home," quavered Mrs. Bowles.
Montag, please, in the name of God, what are you up to?" pleaded Faber.
"Why don't you just read us one of those poems from your little book?" Mrs. Phelps nodded. "I think that'd be very interesting."
"That's not right," wailed Mrs. Bowles. "We can't do that."
"Well, look at Mr. Montag. He wants to. I know he does. And if we listen nice, Mr. Montag will be happy, and then maybe we can go on and do something else."
She glanced nervously at the long emptiness of the walls enclosing them. "Montag, go through with this and I'll cut off. I'll leave." The beetle jabbed his ear. "What good is this? What'll you prove?" "Scare the hell out of 'em, that's what. Scare the living daylights out." Mildred looked at the empty air.
"Now, Guy, just who are you talking to?"
The silver needle pierced his brain. "Montag, listen. Only one way out. Play it as a joke. Cover up. Pretend you aren't mad at all. Then walk to your wall incinerator and throw the book in." Mildred had already anticipated this in a quavery voice.
Ladies, once a year, every fireman's allowed to bring one book home from the old days to show his family how silly it all was, how nervous this sort of thing can make you, how crazy. Guy's surprise tonight is to read you one sample to show how mixed up things were, so none of us will ever have to bother our little old heads about this junk again. Isn't that right, darling?
He crushed the book in his fists. Say yes. His mouth moved like Faber's. Yes. Mildred snatched the book with a laugh.
Here, read this one. No, I take it back. Here's a real funny one you read out loud today. Ladies, you won't understand a word. It goes umpty-tumpty-ump. Go ahead, Guy. That page, dear.
He looked at the open page. A fly stirred its wings softly in his ear. Read.
What's the title, dear?
Dover Beach. His mouth was numb. Now read in a nice, clear voice and go slow. The room was blazing hot. He was all fire. He was all coldness. They sat in the middle of an empty desert with 3 chairs, and him standing, swaying, and him waiting for Mrs. Phelps to stop straightening her dress hem and Mrs. Bowles to take her fingers away from her hair. Then he began to read in a low, stumbling voice that grew firmer as he progressed from line to line. And his voice went out across the desert, into the whiteness, and around the 3 sitting women there in the great hot emptiness. The sea of faith was once 2 at the full, and round earth's shore lay like the folds of a bright girdle furled. But now I only hear its melancholy, long withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of the night wind down the vast edges, drear and naked shingles of the world. The chairs creaked under the 3 women. Montag finished it out. Ah, love, let us be true to one another. For the world, which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for pain. And we are here as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. Mrs. Phelps was crying. The others, in the middle of the desert, watched her crying grow very loud as her face squeezed itself out of shape. They sat, not touching her, bewildered by her display. She sobbed uncontrollably. Montag himself was stunned and shaken.
Shh, said Mildred. You're all right, Clara. Now, Clara, snap out of it. Clara, what's wrong? Sobbed Mrs. Phelps. I don't know. I just don't know. Oh.
Mrs. Bowles stood up and glared at Montag.
You see, I knew it. That's what I wanted to prove. I knew it would happen. I've always said poetry and tears, poetry and suicide and crying and awful feelings, poetry and sickness, all that mush. Now I've had it proved to me. You're nasty, Mr. Montag. You're nasty.
Faber said, Now? Montag felt himself turn and walk to the wall slot and drop the book in through the brass notch to the waiting flames.
Silly words, silly, awful, hurting words, said Mrs. Bowles. Why do people want to hurt people? Not enough hurt in the world. You've got to tease people with stuff like that. Clara, Now, Clara, begged Mildred, pulling her arm, come on, let's be cheery. You turn the family on now. Go ahead. Let's laugh and be happy. Now stop crying and we'll have a party.
No, said Mrs. Bowles. I'm trotting right straight home. You want to visit my house and family, well and good, but I won't come in this fireman's crazy house again in my lifetime.